Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of The Terri Cole Show. I am so happy that you are here. So, I want to start with a couple of questions. Do you ever find yourself in your life after something good happens for you? Maybe you get a promotion at work. Do you ever start thinking, wow, I hope I don't get found out? Or, wow, I don't really think I deserve this? Have you ever started doubting yourself, especially around when good things happen? If you're nodding your head, then today's episode is for you, my friend, because I'm going to be talking all about the imposter syndrome. And part of why I'm talking about this now is that many of you know I just released another new book. It's called Too Much. It's right here. And I had a really intense experience of imposter syndrome while writing this book. So I will tell you that story in this episode. But before we get into it, I just wanted to let you know what the episode was going to be about for you if you ever go through this. And if you happen to be new here, my name is Terri Cole. I'm a licensed psychotherapist. I'm a relationship expert, the author of Boundary Boss and Boundary Boss Workbook, and my brand new book, Too Much. And that is available everywhere that books are sold. I also wanted to make sure that you guys know, this show, I get so many nice comments from you. We have a super active YouTube comment section. You can see, we spend hours a week in the comment section. I certainly do. And many of you, though, my statistics tell me that of all the people who watch regularly, only like 48% are actually subscribed. So if you love the show, I'm going to say, please subscribe. That's what you can do for me, and it's free. And what I will do for you in return is I will read all your comments. I will listen to the people that you want me to interview. I will try to put out content around the concepts that you're struggling with, the things that you need in your life. And I will always do my very best. We keep this bar really high for this show. We just surpassed 200,000 subscribers, but that means that we probably have 400,000 people regularly watching, but just not subscribed. So it would really help me if you would hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Okay, that is my pitch for that. I also don't want you to miss anything, because when you're subscribed and you hit that notification bell, then you're alerted every time I roll out new stuff, which is every Tuesday and every Thursday. Anyway, thank you guys so much for all of the participation in the comment section. You know that normal people watch Netflix and I hang out in my YouTube comments. That is really the truth. All right, let's move it on into today's content. All right, so today we're going to be talking about this syndrome of feeling like a fraud. Like what happens, right? So again, let's put ourselves in a situation. Have you ever had anything happen to you, like your promotion or an invitation to be like in some kind of coveted group, something that you've really wanted, only to have your excitement itself give way to fearful thoughts almost immediately? Like maybe there was a mistake, right? Maybe they actually confused me with someone else, right? Who's much more qualified than I am. Or maybe you had the feeling that if they meant you, it would only be a matter of time before they realized that you were not qualified or that you were some kind of a fraud. If you can relate to this at all, then this is what we're talking about today, which is the imposter syndrome. Now, this is a psychological phenomenon, and there's all different ways that you can experience it, right? So for some people, it's sort of worse than for others, where if you look at what the American Psychological Association, what they say about it, they say that the imposter syndrome experience is having sort of ongoing fear that you're going to be found out or unmasked as being incompetent or unable to replicate past successes. And, what happens? These fears, of course, can lead to feelings of anxiety and depression, and sort of really chopping away or scratching away at your professional confidence. And it can also lead to career burnout. Now, I think that we need to make a distinction between having this all the time, right? Feeling this way all the time. That's not what I'm talking about in today's episode. I'm talking about when we have these moments of sort of elevation in our professional lives a lot of times. And it can happen romantically too, or relationship-wise as well. But where I've seen it the most in my therapy practice is that something good is happening. And it's almost like we're too afraid to believe it. So then we think, I'm not qualified. They're going to find out that I'm not qualified. So if this is you, don't worry. It's very normal. As I was writing this book, too much right there, this is a concept that I've been talking about. High-functioning codependency is a concept I've been talking about and teaching about for many years. It's something, a concept that I originated because my clients did not see themselves in the regular garden variety description or what the definition used to be of codependency, meaning you have to be, enabling an alcoholic is what my clients thought that codependency was. They associated codependency with weakness or them being dependent on other people. And the reality is that's not what it means, and that's not their experience, right? So they were the ones doing everything, but there is a dependency with high-functioning codependency. So I created this new definition. I expanded the definition and then created basically a new definition so that my clients could see themselves in the problem. Because how am I going to help them fix the problem if they don't think that they are in the problem, right? They didn't understand that you could be codependent, which according to me is you being overly invested in the feeling states, the outcomes, the relationships, the careers, the finances of the people in your life to the detriment of your own internal peace. And I think that's also an important aspect of high-functioning codependency is understanding that all of us are caring people. Anyway, long way around the barn to get to what my experience was. Now, there was this fear that just crept in as I was writing this book. And I feel like anytime you're doing something that's a little bold, because it certainly is bold to expand on a very well-known psychological definition, even though it's not in the DSM-5, codependency is something that everyone knows. Basically, they've heard of it, whether they know what it is or not. And it's really never like you guys. It's never the end user that I'm worried about because I have a relationship with you. I know that I understand you. I know that I am you, right? So it's never that. For me, it's always more professionally. I'm worried about what my peers will think, or at least that's what was happening, where I really had massive anxiety for about 6 weeks when I was in the thick of changing the book, rewriting the book. Because listen, writing a book is just total hell, people. I don't know what people think it is, but my experience is that, first of all, it takes a mother effing village. And besides that, you're literally carving something out of nothing. You are creating, it's like imagine that you have a huge block of stone and you have to chisel it into something beautiful that makes sense. It is such a heavy lift. And I love it because I love what I've done. I love this book. I love Boundary Boss. I love the Boundary Boss workbook. I'm so proud of all the work. But it is so much work. I don't know. I have friends who've cranked out 11 books in 12 years. It's like, I don't even know. I'm impressed with myself that I've done what I've done. And I have one more to go on my contract. So there will be another book in 2026. In the meantime, with the imposter syndrome, for me this time around, it was worse because I was I was actually doing something different. I did something really different in Boundary Boss too, but somehow that felt less threatening than this. And it made me want to not do the book at different points. I remember calling up one of my mentors and being like, what am I doing? What is happening? And she was like, hello, relax. What are you thinking? What's the problem? And I told her all the content of what was happening in my mind because I'd had this experience many, many years ago. And I had a great therapist then who helped me. This was in 2011, I think it was, where I had been selected with one of my friends, Chris Carr. We were going to be doing this campaign for Italian Elle where they were photographing women who were changing the face of healing was sort of the idea of the piece. There was a whole bunch of women shooting. Anyway, I remember walking down there. It was in the meatpacking district. And I just kept thinking that it was a mistake. And keep in mind, a lot has happened. It's 2024. Imagine where I had just started my public career, kind of. So, and I did know someone else on the editorial team, so I thought maybe that was why. But it was so hard for me to believe that I was being included, even though I knew the work that I was doing was actually great. Even then, I was always solid in the work. So anyway, I went to a cafe before I actually went on set to do this photo shoot. And two things that I did that were helpful. One is that I made a list, right? I made a list after I talked to my therapist the day before of all the things I had accomplished, all the hard things I'd been through, all the things that I had come through in my life, whether it was quitting drinking or surviving cancer or whatever. But there were other things too. There were other like business accomplishments. But having that list can be really helpful for you, because what the list serves as, it's like evidence, right? Evidence of our strength. Evidence, like it's literally data that tells you like, hey, you've been through some stuff and you've done stuff, right? These are your accomplishments that you feel proud of. I mean, on that list was also going to grad school, quitting my job as a talent agent to go to grad school in my 30s. That was really scary, to like stop making a lot of money to like going to making no money. I mean, eventually I made money, but and so anyway, I made this whole list to just remind myself that it wasn't a mistake and that I should just be grateful that I was being included and just go and have a great time, have fun. And I knew, thank God, I was going to be there with Chris Carr, one of my closest friends. So I was so relieved that at least I was going to be there with someone. Anyway, that's one thing I did. And the other thing I did is I just did some breathing exercises for 5 minutes. That's it. And I was like, all right, get it together and keep moving. And here's the thing, you guys, if you feel like this is you, if you have this experience at times, I want you to know that you're in amazing company, right? If you look at all of the people who have talked about this, massive actors, to, Mike Myers actually is quoted as saying, I still believe that at any time the no talent police will come and arrest me. Pulitzer Prize winning nominee Maya Angelou had said that she felt like she had the imposter syndrome. Tina Fey and Meryl Streep both have admitted to feeling that their lack of talent would soon be discovered. And in my, therapy practice over the past 27 years, it's like I've seen so many people have the same experience. So I think that part of what we can do is welcome the experience. You know what I mean? Like, understand that this is just a moment in time. Make your list of things. It's almost like your brag list, which I do love a brag list moment, I have to say. I think that having a list of your accomplishments, because I think that a lot of us are very hypercritical of ourselves, and it's very easy to look at the 2% that didn't go perfectly if you're a perfectionist, or to think of the stuff that you do wrong rather than the things that you do right. But it's so much more helpful. And in that moment of feeling like you're an imposter, being able to look at the things, the hardcore things that you've actually done in your life can be really, really helpful. And I love looking up, a lot of times if I'm experiencing something, whatever it is, I will just Google it and see who else. And a lot of times I like to see if it's famous people or famous therapists or who else is having this experience, because it's very normalizing. If I'm able to see, the Meryl Streep thing, I was like, wow. You look at her and we would say, I certainly think she's probably one of the most phenomenal actresses of any generation. And you're like, how could she possibly doubt her talent? But I see this with my husband as well. My husband, who is an incredibly well-respected, successful artist, still struggling with being found out at moments, right? It's just moments in time. And then there are other times when he's like, this came out great and I love the way the cover looked. But there are other times where he'll say, if I'll say, is there anything I could do if he's struggling with something? He used to say back in the day, well, you could learn to draw, which I always thought was pretty not nice to say. Like I was being sincere and he was kind of being a little flippant. He doesn't do that anymore, obviously, because I talked to him about it. But even watching him, and I think to myself, how many awards, how many Lifetime Achievement Awards, how many magazine covers, how many being, documentaries about you need to be made or whatever for you to feel worthy. And I think that this is just part of the human condition. Now, if you do feel this way a lot, if you struggle with this all the time, what I'm going to ask you to do is get some help, because this shouldn't be a state that you're in all the time. Something else is going on. And I think that the way that a lot of us were raised, that bragging or feeling good about our accomplishments is not something that we were taught was okay, right? Many of us were taught that, all of this like massive amount of humility. And I'm saying certainly some humility, yes, for sure. But I also think that we have to know what's good about us. We have to be willing to be proud of the good work that we do in the world. And if someone says, that was amazing, I loved whatever it was, I loved your book, we have to learn to say thank you. We have to learn to allow those compliments in. Because if not, you end up blocking your own success by, if someone gives you a compliment and you go, oh no, or, oh, it wasn't that great, whatever it is, like there's a way that we can sort of diminish the other person's gift to us by making it smaller, by being like, oh, this old thing. If someone says, I loved your presentation, instead of acting like it was no big deal, why not just say, thank you so much. I really worked hard on it and it really warms my heart. Or it really makes me feel good that you just said that. Thank you. Because then one thing that we don't realize when people are thanking us or giving us compliments about something is that in the rejection of that compliment, you really are, in a way, rejecting that person's opinion of you. Like it's a gift. Someone giving you a compliment is actually a gift. And it is a skill to learn how to gracefully accept and acknowledge that gift. And if we thought of it as a real gift, like someone handing you a gift, you would never take that gift and throw it in the garbage right in front of them. But that's kind of what you're doing when you reject a compliment. And it's also not about your opinion. If someone says, I love that presentation, and you say, yeah, all of it was okay, but the last 2 segments didn't go as I planned. Like, they don't know that. They don't care. So I think it's important, as, circling back around to the imposter syndrome, but there are ways that we get in our own way of feeling legitimately masterful at what we're doing. And rejecting compliments is one of those ways. So I would love it if you practice getting better at it, and if you're great at it, I'd love to hear that too. So I hope that this episode on the imposter syndrome was helpful to you. In the guide, I'll give you the couple of things that I did to help myself and then what I've taught my clients. Really, just the 2 things that I gave you, I think, are the most helpful that you can do when you are feeling the imposter syndrome. But I would also love to hear your experience on the imposter syndrome. So drop me a comment wherever you listen to or watch this pod. And I want to say thank you for being here. I so appreciate you guys. Oh, hey, and for those of you on YouTube, if you did not subscribe, do it, please. Doesn't cost you a dime and really does help me and the show. All right, to be continued. Thank you guys. Have a great day.